A nationwide trend that's stirring up a lot of controversy.
We together decided that we did not want to have children.
What's the main reason you don't want to have a child?
I want to live my life the way I want to.
To breed or not to breed? That's the question.
The population is declining.
Social responsibility is a reason to have children.
No, it's not. You don't do it based on some statistical model. That's insane. I know things and you're wrong.
We have been married for almost 30 years, and we assumed when we got married that we would have kids one day, that at some point I would probably feel something magic inside me. People talk about this maternal instinct. Never happened for me.
People spend more time thinking about getting a cat than they do about having children because it's just so baked into what we are expected to do.
It takes a village to raise a child, and child-free people are important parts of that village. They serve as mentors to children, and it goes as evidence against the myth that child-free people all hate children. The idea of womanhood is so intertwined with motherhood that it's almost impossible to disentangle them. Like, are you a real woman if you're not a mother? From the moment we're born, it is our destiny to become parents. And girls learn this by being given baby dolls when they're little. They learn how to become nurturers. Men face the reality of not carrying on the family name and the pressure from their families to do that.
Even if I did wake up one morning and regretted not having children, I would rather bear that regret for myself than to have children and wake up one morning and regret it. Because I don't think somebody who's living with regret for having children is going to be the best caretaker for those children.
You say there's a difference between being child-free and childless.
I do, yes.
And what's the difference to y'all?
That distinction is really important to me because I study people who have made the intentional choice not to have kids.
Right.
And we share the circumstance of being non-parents with people who I use the term childless to refer to. In the case of childless people, I'm talking about non-parents due to infertility, or they may not have found a partner that they wish to parent with and don't want to be single parents. So it's an important distinction because in one case, a person is living the life that they've chosen for themselves, and in another case, they're not. They wish to be a parent, but they're not.
Yeah. And you agree with this, to be child-free?
Yes, yeah. I don't think I started out thinking that I would be child-free, but I think it was something that over years of thought and decision-making that we together decided that we did not want to have children. If
you had been married to somebody else that wanted to have children, do you think you would have been okay with that?
Yes. I think I started out from the perspective of I would, because it's kind of a default social thing that you are raised as. But even kind of after I had reached the point where I felt that I could have a very fulfilling life without children, I was still open to the option if Amy wanted them.
What are the odds of two people coming together that are okay with being child-free?
That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that, but I will say that I think Lance and I got lucky. I mean, we were high school sweethearts and we married very young. I was 22 and he was 23. And as we've shared, we both thought that we would have kids one day, and we ended up landing in the same place independently and then together.
I think we could have been completely happy as parents. I think it's just a choice that we made.
You say it comes with a stigma.
Yes, I think, there's a range. There's the, I never thought about that before. And then there's, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're an alien, or you're a terrible person. We're socialized to believe that, especially for women, that's the natural thing for a woman, and we don't think about the progression of a woman's life course, not including motherhood.
Yeah. Well, being a sociologist, you understand about cognitive dissonance, so
yeah.
Flip the script and give me your best argument for having children.
Oh, no one has ever asked me that before, Dr. Phil. That's a great... Well, what I've been told is that it is the most rewarding thing that a person can do with their lives. If that's true for people, then that's wonderful.
I think the best reason to have children is because you really want them.
Yeah, why do you think people would want them?
I have a lot of snide reasons. I think that some people want them because they want to create their own friend. And they don't, again, it's just something that they've been told that they should do.
Can I tell you what the research says about why people say they want them?
Sure.
So both parents and non-parents give as reasons relational intimacy, a desire for relational intimacy. So in the case of parents, they talk about an imagined relationship with a child. Non-parents talk about the importance of the relationship they have with their spouse or partner and friends and family, and not wanting to interrupt those relationships. And both non-parents and parents talk about the good of humanity and the future of the world and a concern about those things. In reality, our reasons are very, very similar. you look skeptical.
No, I'm just surprised because I have no stigma about it whatsoever. I think some people should not have kids for sure.
Yeah.
But I think people have made you guys really defensive about it.
Well, now I'm getting defensive. I was about to say I'm not defensive, and that sounds very defensive of me.
Yeah, of course it does.
Yeah.
Because I would have thought, particularly when I put it in the frame of cognitive dissonance, that rather than setting up a paper tiger, you would have made a convincing argument for having children because you would have insight as to why people have children.
Yeah.
And not be threatened by making that good argument for having children instead of hiding behind an academic argument about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Being a mother is the greatest thing that I will ever do. At the end of the day, no one says, boy, I wish I would have worked more, or boy, I wish I would have spent more time traveling alone instead of, having a family. Videos on TikTok or social media where you see women saying, I never want to have children. I think that they are victims of a nihilistic culture and messaging that is dangerous and wrong. When I initially heard of the DINK trend, I laughed it off, but I really don't like this overall anti-human message that reproducing is bad and that the world would be a better place if there were less humans. I mean, that's the language of a tyrant. And whenever you hear language like that, usually there's catastrophe to follow.
You have pretty strong feelings about this.
I do. It's a very interesting trend that I feel could be very dangerous. This sort of trend that's basically, I think, enticing and trying to reach young children. Like I have 4 young daughters, and to tell them that being a mother doesn't matter, it's not important. Instead, focus on yourself. Just only think of your hedonistic, immediate desires. And I think that there's just a devaluing of motherhood, of parenthood. It can be dangerous for our culture. I mean,
You say that you think about your purpose in life and what stands out about everything else is your children.
yes, it's everything.
But you judge people who don't feel that way.
I judge people that go on social media and make statements that are so nihilistic.
You made some very bold statements. You said it's the most rewarding, challenging experience a woman can have. And you have yet to meet a woman who believes that they would rather have a dog than a baby.
Yes, I've never met anyone who said that.
And I can introduce you to a few million. And you say, I don't judge people, but then you give me like 5 pages of judging people because they don't agree with your position.
Raising children, bringing them into society, as a family, we shoulder a great burden. Our children shoulder a great burden to humanity. I mean, it's more than just, there's an instinct in us to reproduce for a reason. I mean, when you look at the Wall Street Journal headlines, depopulation is an actual impending crisis. And I am concerned.
Do you think people should have children to save the world?
No, I don't think the messaging should be from our kind of cultural message is consume, prioritize yourself. You don't have children, but buy a bigger house. Go on shopping trips to Costco, but you don't have children. Just consume. And I do judge that message that only think of yourself, only consume, and don't think about your future. And
Do y'all
I
think you're materialistic and selfish?
I mean, I confess I can be selfish and materialistic, but do I think that I am at my core like that? No.
Well, yeah. Well, clearly something's going on, right? You're a sociologist.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening across the world, South Korea, in Europe, in America. I mean, the birth rate is dropping.
Right.
You know, having children is wonderful. Yeah, it's hard, but it will bring you inexplicable joy. And the lessons that I've learned something about myself in having children. It's everything.
That's great for you.
I think there's a severe lack of imagination that you can't think that other people could be just as happy not having kids as you are having kids. And for me, I've done a lot of work in my life developing introspection about myself. I don't feel that I had to have a kid to do that. If I can look at how I was raised as a child, I can look at how other people are raising children. And I just decided I didn't need to have them. And I don't think we're any more materialistic than many of the people who are parents around us. And so I don't feel like that's a relevant basis for having or not having children. Children will force me to be less materialistic is not an argument. I think you should just, if you want to be less materialistic, be less materialistic.
Well, no, that's not the argument.
Well, you said, and I quote, "I do not judge other women's decision to not have kids." I thought my iPad was going to explode when I read that after everything you said.
I think mother has been devalued to the point where it's like, well, why would I want to do that? You know, that doesn't seem like much fun, and that would be a lot of sacrifice, and that would mean that I would have to give
What's your
something
point?
up. I think a lot of people that say, oh, I don't want to have children, you know, they don't know
what
what
they're
they're
missing.
missing.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go.